Hello and welcome back to the X-Files Revisited. We are on to, well, I call it episode 25 of season 3, which is the wrap-up, where we are going to discuss our top 5 and bottom 5 episodes, if we have any memory of them, which might be okay in Brian's case, but in my case, all bets are off. Now, Brian, you're the X-Files fan, the person that's more knowledgeable than myself. How would you say this season landed or has lasted in its legacy?
I think it's pretty highly regarded, certainly amongst X-Files fans. I think when I ask X-Files fans what's the best season, or give us your top 5 seasons, season 3 always makes the list, if not the top, to be honest. I think it does have a couple of just get through them, but it's got quite a roster. Like, my top 5 episodes for this are all 5-star episodes.
Right. Mine's are not. Well, I don't think I gave out 5 5s, Brian.
You gave out, I've got them right here, I can tell you exactly what you gave.
Oh, God.
So you gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You gave 6 episodes of 5 out of 5.
No way.
Yep. I can tell them you if you want. So you gave Clyde Bruckman a 5. You gave... I mean, I could be giving them away here. I could be giving out...
Yeah, don't say it.
Yeah, so I was going through them all, but yeah.
Okay,
but you...
in that case, yes, all my top 5s are 5-star episodes as well.
There you go. But that kind of proves my point. This season has got some big hitters, and it just... I think on an average, I can give you our averages actually now, because this is something that we do. We've done with each wrap-up show. I can't remember what the averages were for season 2 and season 1, but I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on it, but I'm pretty sure our averages for season 3 are higher than both the season 2 and season 1 averages. So based on our episode scores, the individual episode scores divided by the 24 episodes, I gave the average episode a score of 3.8 out of 5, and you gave it a score of 3.6 out of 5. So
I will tell you this fact, Brian. My top 3 episodes this season are also my top 3 episodes of the series so far.
Wow. Okay,
so there's a
then.
little tidbit of knowledge.
Right. I will tell you that my top 3 episodes of this season are not my top 3 episodes so far. Yeah, no. It's a hard call. It's a really hard call.
No,
but we'll
fact,
get it.
Now I'm thinking about it. Top 2 are definitely my top 2 episodes.
Right.
There's one in season 2 that I would put 3rd.
One in season 2 that you'd put 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay, well...
It was my favourite episode last season, Brian.
Which one was it again? Humbug?
The Freaks episode.
Yeah, Humbug, yeah.
Humbug.
Okay, yeah, I figured it would be. Okay, so... we will get into a top 10 episodes of all time at some point, I'm sure. Yes. That time is not now. We are discussing season 3, and as is customary at this point, we are going to start with the worst, because we like to end on a high. We want to end the episode talking about the good stuff, not the bad stuff. So we're gonna give you our bottom 5 episodes, starting with the least worst, working our way to the absolute worst. So number
Shall we
one,
say 5 to 1? 1 being the worst episode,
yes,
5 being the 5th worst.
yes, that's exactly it. So who wants to go first? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I do not mind. My number 5 worst episode is Hell Money, which
Okay.
I've just flung in there at the end. You know, and to be fair, there was a couple of episodes that I could have put in there. And as much as I like the police officer character, the story's just so uninteresting, and the reveals and the wrap up and everything that happens is just not that great. If I was looking at episodes that I would want to watch, and this came down to like Tessos Dos Bitches, and this one, I would go for the other one more than this.
Okay. I am on that same hill with you. Although, having said that, oh no, you gave him the same score. It was me. I gave Tesso Dos Bichos a 0.5 higher than Hell Money. You rated them exactly the same. But yeah, I think Tesso Dos Bichos, while it is not a great episode, it still has that kind of B-movie quality about it that gives it a sense of fun. Whereas this one, the subject matter's it's a bit grim. You know, body parts, people kind of being slaves to this horrible game, and there's no real X-File here. That's the problem.
No.
The ghosts that are in it, because this is my number 5, by the way, which is why I'm talking about it. So all of a sudden, yes, my number 5 is also Hell Money. My number 6 probably being Tessa Dos Bichos. Hell Money for me, it's got something. It's got atmosphere. It's got the central character that's in it is quite interesting, and I enjoy his story. But I'm kind of sat there thinking, where's Mulder and Scully in this? This feels like the show has become the guest star characters show, and like I say, there's just, other than the 3 ghosts that never at any point to me feel like genuine ghosts, they just feel like triads in masks. Yep. I'm just left wondering where's the X-File. So yeah, I gave it a 2.5 out of 5, and it's not the worst episode of all time, but it's just a bit dull.
My number 4, and I'm wondering if we're going to be really close on this, Brian. My number 4 is Syzygy. Is that how you say it? Yeah.
Syzygy,
yeah. The occult episode that wasn't a cult, it was all star sign driven and was deeply boring and uninteresting. I remember the couple of trips to the astrologer that really didn't have anything to do, from what I remember. The 2 girls
basically, it could have been condensed down to one scene. They introduce her like early on to set her up for being introduced again. It's a bit silly.
The 2 girls aren't interesting, and I just, I remember the ending with the 2 girls cowering in the closet and just thinking, to quote Nick Frost, just going like, nope. Don't like it. And then there's this little jealousy from Scully because Mulder likes the police officer, or there's a little flirtation there.
Yeah,
Scully doesn't care.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't care, and that whole side of things is explained. Like, people's weird behaviour is explained by the whole alignment of the planets and all that nonsense, and it's just like, I don't care.
The writer's head was up Uranus. When he was writing this one.
Yeah, the writer was Chris Carter, and unfortunately, he was trying to do his best Darren Morgan, and it failed. But no, I didn't put that at my number 4. I put Grotesque at my number 4, and this was the Gargoyle one with Kurtwood Smith, in which Kurtwood Smith was just unbelievably wasted. I think there is an interesting conceit there. The whole, Mulder's former mentor kind of looking into the abyss for so long that he becomes the Abyss, but that point is hammered through our retinas as we watch this episode, that it's just like, oh man, so heavy-handed. You got Mulder, who does his serial killer profiling thing, but it's almost like he goes from being normal, whatever kind of Mulder, and then the next scene being so entrenched within the psyche of this serial killer that, oh, could he be going into the dark? It's just like, there's no journey there. It's just like, boom, he's like lost. Oh, it's so dark. And it was, everything about it was heavy-handed. Everything was laboured. You've got Scully showing up at the warehouse within the space of like 2 minutes of having been called, and she was at home, and it's like, you're telling me she's not only got dressed, got out of her apartment, got in a car, put this location into the sat nav, drove there, got up the flights of stairs to the it was nonsense. It was absolutely nonsense. She would have had to have been right outside the warehouse to have made that trip in that time. The whole episode was just sloppy, which is a shame, because there was actually a pretty decent idea at the centre of it.
Yes, okay. My number 3 is Revelations. Now, I loved the sight of R. Lee Ermey at the start of this one as the preacher, and they take him out oh so quickly. This is the kind of kiddie exorcist episode, which, to be honest,
Stigmata episode.
Stigmata, yeah.
Kalashari was exorcist episode. This is more
Kalashari
Stigmata.
That tells you. I've already forgotten most of it, Brian. And I've no interest in going back to it. I just remember really deeply disliking this one. It's starting off strong episode. I liked the start of it, and then it just went downhill really quickly. And honestly, I'm struggling to remember anything about this episode.
Oh, if you remember, it had that guy in it from The Hills Have Eyes as well, who was like the boy. He came to protect
Michael
the boy.
Berryman.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So he was almost like an
remember
angel
Michael
and a
Berryman.
demon.
That's not a problem. I can remember that.
Just can't remember him in the episode. Just No, Revelations is one I like. I don't love, but I like.
Right.
What did I actually give it? Revelations, I gave a 3.5. I'm entertained by it. I think it's got some nice ideas in it. Obviously, I'm a man of faith, and I think because of that, there are things in it that resonate with me. But is it the best episode of season 3? No, not by a long shot. But my number 3 is Syzygy, which you've already discussed. But yeah, it's just, the main problem is Chris Carter really trying to be Darren Morgan and not having anywhere near the level of genius that Darren Morgan has when it comes to telling stories. Now, that's not to say that, Chris Carter isn't a certain kind of genius. For he is the guy who came up with this show after all. So I've got a lot of respect for the dude. Without him, I wouldn't be sat here talking to you right now about this show. But it's just when he tries to be clever, Darren Morgan clever. Don't try that, Chris.
Yeah,
don't.
It's not his style.
No, it's not his style. He's good when he's focusing on mythology.
I think we're going to be close here in the last two, Brian. So if we are, feel free to jump in.
Okay.
My number 2 is DPO.
And my number 2 is DPO.
Here we go. Yep. We do get
Mrs. Kaveen! Mrs. Kaveen!
Yeah. The electric fire starter type of thing. It's Jack Black. It's Jack Black, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is Jack Black.
Oh man, for a 40-minute episode, it felt like a two-parter that went on for so long, and just dragged on. And for a movie or an episode that's filled with electricity, there was zero electricity within the storytelling or the actor's performance, anything. Oh, man. Brian, what do you think of DPO? I mean, is that your number two?
A bit like you with Revelations. I struggle to remember anything about this episode, and I've seen it multiple times.
The stoners.
Yeah,
the stoners in it. Yeah.
I seem to recall the stoners being in it, but that could just because one of the stoners looks a bit like Jack Black. So I don't know if I don't think the stoners were in this one. But I remember arcade games. I remember young men living with their mothers.
Dead cows.
Fantasizing and didn't he have a porno that he'd stuck Mrs. Kavit's head over? Yeah. I'm sure he did. Am I making that up? Am I just making that up?
That could be a blast from your own history. I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure he had magazines or something, and he had Mrs. Kavit kind of pasted into it. It weren't good. And I just always remember him going, Mrs. Kavit! Mrs. Kavit! Shout! And it's not a good episode at all. It's a real slog to get through. Okay. I do recall there being a douchebag sheriff in it, and I do recall his douchebaggery actually being somewhat justified.
Okay.
I can't remember any more than that. There was something to do with why he was shutting Mulder and Scully down, and his reasons were actually kind of like, yeah, do you have to be such a douchebag about it? Maybe not. Are you right? I could understand somebody agreeing with you. But
okay. So let me say this: I think without a doubt, the worst episode this series is probably going to be the one that we've both got at number one here. So I think I'm going to let you take the lead on this one, Brian.
I hope we've got the same one here.
So do I.
Because the one I'm about to say should at the very least be in your bottom five.
Yes.
If it's not,
it is, Brian. It
has to
terrible.
It has to be. So the episode that is the worst episode of season 3 as far as I'm concerned, The List.
Yes, 100%.
Oh man, it's repetition.
At all 5 positions, Brian. It was that
bad. It was a painful watch. I remember, like, even something like DPO. There's things in it that I laugh at because of how bad it is. Where I'm like, I'm going to love talking with Graham about this one because we're going to be able to poke fun at this one. The List isn't even fun. There is literally zero sense of fun watching it. It's one of those episodes that just sucks life out of you. It's a black hole of an episode. And it's literally all just people alluding to this one man, this prisoner who's got all this power and but it's that same scene played out again and again. Someone else says it. So another person says, "Oh, he was, he's like really like," and it's just like, how many times are we going to repeat this crap? And then you get to the end of the episode and you're like, you know what? That episode could have been 20 minutes long. Literally could have been 20 minutes long. And it's another one written by Chris Carter, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, we'll forgive him a little bit, but there's certain things that we just cannot forgive.
Mm-hmm.
The List is one of those. I remember, I think this is the one with the car crash at the start, and they see the guy in the back seat. They've got the young boy that's...
No, the car crash is at the end, I think.
Car crash at the end. The young boy that's kind of getting in and out of the prison, is that the right one?
I think you're mixing it up with Fresh Bones from season 2.
Either way, they're both crap.
It's just this is Nietzsche. This is the one with Nietzsche and then his wife.
Yeah, he's in the prison. He's preaching. It's so tedious. It's so uninteresting. It's bland. Even the
JT Walsh was a prison warden.
Yeah,
JT Walsh was a prison warden, and he was beating prisoners. Yeah. And he kills a prisoner by beating him. He's the one who ends up in a car crash at the end. But it's just,
Even the way it's set, it's like it's in prisons. It's drab browns and blacks and greys, and it's
beige, just beige everywhere.
Uninteresting. It's most definitely the third of season 3.
Yeah, Absolutely. It blows my mind that in this season we got Teso dos Bichos, which according to IMDb users is considered not just the worst episode of this season, but the worst episode of all time as far as X-Files is concerned. That I find staggering.
Yeah.
When you've got space in season 1 and you've got the list, Dodcam in season, which I will not tell you how many people I've come across that rate Dodcam as their favourite episode of all time. I've spoken to people on Facebook whose favourite episode is Dodcam.
That's an instant block.
It's just, it boggles my mind. The fact that the list is in this season and it is considered higher in regard than Teso dos Bichos, which I at least had fun with.
This was the easiest one to place on my list.
For me too.
Yeah, it was just
for me too. Like ever since we watched it and reviewed it, because like we gave DPO pretty low scores.
Yeah.
Well, we both gave DPO a 1.5, and we both gave the list a 1.5. But as I say, it's a different kind of 1.5. One is the kind you can laugh at. This one is just, there's nothing. There's literally zero there. Like, you can't wait for it to end. I think it may have been our shortest podcast because we just didn't have anything to discuss. we just moved on really quickly. But for me, it would make my bottom 5 episodes of up to this point, up for the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Like, even Space, there were things in that I was able to laugh at. We had some amusement with Space. We had no amusement with the list at all. So for me, it could very well be my least favourite episode so far.
Yeah, possibly. It's definitely it's definitely up there.
Mm-hmm.
So, right. So, are we going to move on to our top 5 episodes?
Let's do it.
Are we going to watch me break the rules and cheat, Brian?
Well, I think we're going to watch me break the rules and cheat. So it's all open.
Oh, hey. Hey, well, I'll go first, shall I, again?
Go on, do it.
My number 5. Number 5.
Fikes.
Yeah. Is Piper Maru Apocrypha. Now,
Okay.
I think it needs to be considered as the one episode. It does.
Yes,
it
does.
A continuating story. I love the whole submarine aspect of it. The black ooze coming into it, such a strong theme throughout the series from what I remember. It brings Krychek back. You get to see some globe-trotting.
In a big way, yeah.
You get to see some wonderful globe-trotting scenes. I love the black eyes, the way it closes out one episode and we get into the other one and we get the continuation of the submarine story and what happened. You get to see Scully tackling some old demons, but going to the sort of retired naval officer and getting some information and relating some of her own father's woes and what's happened to him. Mm-hmm. Great double-parter. I think it's my favourite double-parter so far in the season so far, in the series. Number 5.
Okay.
5 and 6.
Okay. My number 5, I know this is probably going to be, if I'm guessing, this is probably going to be in your top 2, is Jose Chung's From Outer Space. Mm-hmm. Darren Morgan, don't really need to say more than that. It's Darren Morgan.
That's it.
We've said many times before, this is a guy who really knows what he's doing. He takes a theme and he sticks with that theme. And every scene that he writes links to that theme. And his episode... I just... Jose Chung, for me, isn't my go-to Darren Morgan episode. But when I watch it, I sit there thinking, why isn't this my go-to Darren Morgan episode? But it isn't. It's one that as I'm watching it, I have to fully accept the genius that is on show as I'm watching it. It's bonkers, absolutely bonkers. You got aliens abducting men dressed up like aliens abducting people. We don't know if the aliens that have abducted the men who are dressed as aliens are actually really aliens, or whether they in turn are men dressed as aliens abducting men dressed as aliens in order to get rid of an alien cover. It's bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. The thing is, it's so bonkers, it just works. It works so well that Carter actually steals it and makes it part of the main mythology at one point. So yeah, it's incredible ideas, but unlike, say, Syzygy, which has an idea and kind of, let's throw loads of humour in there, all the humour is focused around that theme of, like the insanity of government cover-up, and the abductee. The story, the abductee's story, basically. It's focused on the abductee's story and everything that comes out of that with regards to how people perceive it, how the person who supposedly was abducted perceives it. Are they lying? Are they telling the truth? How the government kind of use that in ways to further their lie or their truth. It's just, it's brilliant.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe my number 4, and I think it would be cerulean blue would probably be the best way to describe
Pusher.
it. So,
Pusher,
yeah, my number 4 is Pusher, because it gives us a proper maniacal villain with nothing to lose, someone that is just looking for a challenge, nothing more. Who is quite almost like, if you want to equate him to a super villain, the Joker. He just wants to see the world burn. He just wants to have a challenge in his final days as he struggles to deal with his inevitability. He picks Mulder as the counterpoint to him. And it's so wonderfully set up. It's so wonderfully performed. You feel as if there is real danger. Now, this is something that's really hard to capture in a TV show. When you've got set characters who are going to continue through the season, you feel terrified for these characters in this episode. And for that feeling alone, it accomplishes so much. I think Pusher was a fantastic episode. I loved it. My number 4.
Yeah, it really does show the strength of this season that Pusher is at somebody's number 4, because by any other season standards, that could very well be the number 1 episode of the season. It's just
and gave me the vocabulary of cerulean
blue, which I have used on many occasions as a result. A nobody who wants to be a somebody and would rather die being a somebody. Because he got the power to push due to his tumour, and he wouldn't treat the tumour. He'd rather die. He'd rather have the tumour, which gives him the power, and die, going out in a blaze of glory, than cure the tumour and live and still be a nobody. Which craziness. But my number 4 is Too Shy, which is the one about the fat sucker. I really liked it. This is an episode that many people actually hate. That they think is it's been misconstrued over the years as against fat people, and very kind of down with women of a certain weight, and it's just not at all. It's down with people who prey on people's insecurities and things like that, and that's what this guy is. He's a monster in the truest sense of the word, not because of his condition, but because he uses that condition as an excuse to then prey on people's insecurities. And I just think, again, there was a central theme there in the episode that was really well dealt with, in which every scene again kind of alludes to that theme, and it gave us a really great villain in this Encanto guy, played by the dude from Thelma and Louise, the rapist from Thelma and Louise, and it just a really great villain. When I think about iconic X-Files, I mean, you can see him at the bottom of the screen right there. I put him in the images. He was a classic villain, and I would have liked to have seen him return for a movie, or at least another episode. But I think if they did like a standalone movie, a Wrath of Khan style movie, bring that dude back, because he's probably been locked away for some time as a result of Mulder and Scully capturing him. So he'd be pretty pissed at them and want his vengeance. But no, I really like the episode. It's extremely solid. There's a good showdown between him and Scully at the end, in which Scully gets to kick some ass. Classic monster of the week villain story.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 3, War of the Caprophages, or however you say it.
Caprophages, yeah.
That's the one. War of the Cockroaches. Again, we've got a Darren Morgan script. We have got hilarious little background things that just that tickle me, like the name of the cockroach company at the start. We've got the stoners try to get high off dung.
Yeah.
We've got the horrible images of the cockroaches attacking almost. We get Dr. Bambi. Dr. Bambi demands to be at number 3, Brian.
Her name is Bambi?
The relationship between Bambi and Duchovny is wonderful. I wish that had continued, because it really is something that kind of breaks up almost Scully and Mulder. I love the way it's filmed at the start with the cockroach crawling over the screen. You know, just little touches throughout the episode that make it so fun. The dialogue, again, just sparkles and flows. The scientist at the end that Dr. Bambi ends up with is just such a nice addition as well. There's everything about this episode makes me smile. It's not one of those episodes that I would say adds a lot to the series as a whole, but it's just a standalone fun episode. This is one that I could see me throwing on and just enjoying for 40 odd minutes.
Yeah. It's Darren Morgan, so by most people's standards, it's a 5 out of 5. Either way you cut it, it's probably my least favourite Darren Morgan episode, but it's a 5 out of 5. So you know, when a particular writer gives you your least favourite of their work and it's still a 5 out of 5, that tells you everything you need to know.
100%.
But so it doesn't make my list, obviously, because Jose Chung has already been on, and I've just said this was my least favourite of his. But my number 3 is Pusher, which obviously we've already talked about. And like you, it's, you know, I've seen this episode many times now, and I can't count the amount of times that I've seen it, and yet I still get tense during that Russian roulette scene. It's like, I already know what's going to happen, but it's just the build-up to it. The build-up is expertly done. I believe it was directed by Rob Bowman, if I'm not mistaken. I could very well be, but the way that whole section is directed is fantastic, because we see Mulder being kitted out with the headgear, the camera, and going through the hospital that's been emptied, and, you know, creeping around the doors to see Modell there. And it's just, everything's just like set up brilliantly and filmed in such an expert way as to evoke tension out of the audience. And you forget for a moment, even though you've seen it before, that these are our 2 main characters. They're not going to die here. Everything about it is brilliant. Modell's kind of insulting of Detective Frank Burst, and the way he kills him by literally making his heart burst. Some really great moments between Mulder and Scully, great moments between Mulder and Modell, where Mulder's kind of antagonising him, and it's just, it's this game of cat and mouse between the two of them. But who's the cat and who's the mouse?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolute classic episode.
Yep, my number 2 is Clive Buckman's Final Repose.
My number
It's a
2 is also Clyde Bruckman's Final Repose.
okay. What a stunning episode! It really is. It really is well put together. It's also it really balances between stripping back fake psychics while still kind of alluding to the world of psychics in general as well. I think Peter Boyle is
Fantastic.
phenomenon. Yeah, and throughout my years of watching X Files, where I've told you before, we've only watched the first several seasons and then I faded away.
Yeah.
The one thing that always stuck with me, the one scene, was Clive Buckman telling Scully that she would be
They were going to
cradling
end up
him.
in bed together. Yeah.
Yeah, cradling his head, cradling him in her arms while tears ran down his face, and the ultimate reality of that, and her kind of like mocking of the statement that was so powerful, a part of the storytelling that stuck with me for 20 years more, until I finally rewatched the episode. It's a wonderful episode that is at both times funny and really poignant as well. I think.
Yeah.
I've had to
For
find-
me, it's Darren Morgan's best, and I don't mean just to this season. I mean, if I was ranking Darren Morgan episodes, it's the best. It's so on point, I just remember pulling so much out of every scene, and the ways in which the scenes kind of relate to each other and build on each other, and like you said, that scene there is one scene in isolation, which then builds up another scene. Like the scene at the end wouldn't be what it is without the scene that's prepped it, and but it's like that all over the place. All this prep work that is done, but it doesn't feel like prep work. It still feels like an equally valid scene in its own right. It's just everything about that episode is on point. We got the introduction of the stupendous Yappy in that episode when he goes into the room and he's like, I sense that someone is, a non-believer, and then he kind of points out Mulder, and it's right there, just instantly fills you in on how full of crap this dude is, because Mulder's probably the only one in the room that believes. So yeah, it's just fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and just getting into the character's head of someone who can foresee the future. And like in most movies, that person would become a superhero and like change things and use it in a really gifted way. And that isn't who this guy is. He's a sad sack. He doesn't want this gift. He refuses to call it a gift. As far as he's concerned, it's a curse. It's like knowing how things are going to happen. It's not how it's meant to be. There's no spontaneity in life when you know what's going to happen. So it sucks all the joy out of living. And it's just the way that's conveyed through this character and through the performance by Peter Boyle is just, brilliant writing. Brilliant writing. Clyde Bruckman, my number 2.
Yeah. And my number 1 is Jose Chung's From Outer Space. I utterly loved this episode because...
Hashtag Darren Morgan fanboy.
Yeah. It shouldn't work. It's so crazy. It's parodying the show that it's part of. It's taking the mickey out of it. It does all these silly moments with such interesting aspects that just make me sit up and pay attention. The blocking out of the swearing is just incredibly funny.
Blankety blank.
Yeah, when we get the Men in Black turning up and it's a muscle-bound character who spews forth this rapid-fire dialogue that is both confusing and plausible. It's just so confusing itself when we have possible realistic abductions twisted with fan fiction of abductions. It's things that are so monstrously obscure and silly that I can't help but just smile and laugh at it. I think this is so well constructed an episode, so well written an episode that I think watching it once, twice, three times, you're barely scratching the surface of how so well constructed that Morgan is created here. Incredibly funny, entertaining, like you said. It gives rise, which I can't remember, I don't know, to possible futures of the X-Files. It was such a good episode, while still poking fun at the subject matter at the heart of this. Amazing stuff.
Absolutely. And for me, my number one is Piper Maru and Apocrypha. It's just so for me, this is my favourite mythology episode of all time. I love Krychek. Anytime Krychek shows up, I'm like, this is gonna be a good one, because when he's there, you know stuff's going down. You know something big is going down when Krychek shows up. The fact that he and Mulder kind of have to get together and have a little bit of a road trip with each other. There's always this antagonistic relationship between the two of them. Krychek always becomes Mulder's whipping boy when they get together. Krychek kind of double crosses him at one point in Tokyo. They bring this woman in who was a really great character, just as a she was like a shipping. She worked in shipping, and she was like a middleman for. But she within her own right was a really great villain, just as a one-off kind of character. It really gives Scully some meat. She gets to capture her sister's killer. Or does she? Because he blames Krychek, and then later he dies in custody. But it wraps up a lot of stuff that's gone before, whilst sending the mythology into a whole new direction with this new oil slick alien. So it's just world building, great world building, brilliant payoffs for characters, very emotional ride, particularly because of Scully and the ties to her sister. It's the mythology at its best. You get to season 7, maybe even season 6. From season 6 onwards, the mythology starts to kind of disappear up its own arse a bit. But when it was in its prime, it was Piper Maru, Apocrypha. For me, the mythology doesn't get any better than that. It's a brilliant episode, and when you see them edited together as a movie, it works as a movie. It's like it was like one of those two-parters that you can look at where you think, I can really see this show going to the big screen, because this feels like a genuine movie. And I also like two-parters where where it doesn't feel like a different episode in the second part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like for me, Colony and Endgame was one of those great ones as well, because it feels like if you edited them together, took out the credits and stuff, you wouldn't quite be able to tell where the break was in the episode. Whereas obviously we've just reviewed the season closer for season 3. For me, when we get into the opening of season 4, that episode, it almost feels like its own thing. It doesn't feel like a part 2 to that. It just, the tone is different. It's a bit off. So I love that the tone in both episodes for Piper Maru and Apocrypha is the same. It feels like the same episode carried on. It's just, nailed it. Brilliant.
Okay, so that's our top 5s and our bottom 5s, but we want to hear your opinion. So if you're on YouTube or if you're on the podcast, there is an email address or there is the comment box. Please let us know that your top 5, bottom 5, if you have it, and maybe we'll read it out when we get to season 4, episode 1. But before we get there, Brian, can you give me a kind of, a little oversight of season 4? What is there to be expected? Because we're really moving into ground now where I'm not sure if I've seen this or not.
Yeah. There's some real standouts for sure. I think it's Paper Hearts from season 4. I think it is. I may not be correct on that, but I think Paper Hearts is from season 4, which is
yes.
right. That's a great one. Unruly, maybe from season 4.
Yes.
Right. So for me, those are the two that I remember as being absolute standouts. Now things can change as they have when we've been going through them and reviewing episodes. But for me, they're the two I'm looking forward to getting to as far as standalone episodes go. I just remember those two being absolute bangers. Yeah, I mean the show's really in its stride by that point. I think the mythology episodes in season 4 for me are definitely not as strong as season 3. Because Nisai and 731 was also a pretty good 2-parter, it's got to be said. But yeah, so for me, the mythology episodes take a bit of a dip in season 4, but the standalone episodes, there's some real solid stuff in season 4.
Yeah. And now for the incredibly sad and disappointing part of the episode, where we announce that we're taking a little break as we have some personal things going on. We've got to the summer, or almost at the summer. We've got some things in our own lives that we need to deal with. So we're going to be taking a break of a few weeks to recharge our batteries, to uncover some mysteries of our own before we come back and talk more of the X-Files, which, Ryan, I'm sure you are eager to come back and talk season 4 as much as I am.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure anyone who watches us on YouTube, you may be aware that both me and Graham have our own individual YouTube channels. We've also got jobs and lives, families.
Yeah.
Putting one of these out every week, it gets a little bit stressful. You may have noticed that towards the end of season 3, we've had a few gaps in weeks. We need a break.
Yes. Yes.
We love doing this. We are definitely going to continue. So we will be away for a few weeks. Don't get worried. Don't think, oh no, they've gone. Where have they gone? We are definitely coming back. We just need a bit of space to recharge our batteries, get on top of a few of our own personal baggage, and then we will absolutely be back straight into season 4. And I think going forward we will probably have a few weeks break in between each season, just so we can do that, recharge our batteries and stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically we're looking at 25 episodes with a wrap up each season, so that's half a year at a time. So yeah, cut us a little bit of slack. In fact, if you feel sorry for us right now, you could pop over to iTunes or wherever and leave a review telling everybody how hard we work and how much effort we put into this awesome show. We would appreciate that greatly. And as
spread
always,
it, share it, please share it. That link you see, if you're on YouTube, that link you see at the top, it's not that hard. Just copy and paste. Just send it out to various people. If you like it, then chances are other people will like it. So share it. It's the best thing you can do for us.
Yeah, we enjoy doing this show. We would like other people to enjoy it as well. As always, thank you for watching on YouTube, listening on podcast, and we will see you next time for season 4.
Bye.